Hello and welcome to this edition of A Visit to the Mound. I'm Lark Smith, along with the other voice you'll hear in a moment is Stan Hough. Today we're going to talk about the psychology of pitching. My thought process has always been a pitcher on the mound has to have a shark mentality, and the fact that he can't let an umpire call bother him, he can't let an error bother him, but then again, he does have to be thinking on the mound, does he not?
Oh, gosh, yes. Total focus and concentration, because he's the guy throwing every pitch, starting that situation off with every pitch. Now, when I had my teams, it was more like, okay, we're going to start from the beginning. Your main priority is a first pitch strike to every hitter. Okay, by doing so, you gain a tactical advantage over the hitter. You're taking a little more offense away from him. Think about that. And I told him, I said, I want you to do it within 3 pitches. Don't do more than 3 pitches to a hitter. Get him out. Now, the reason being is
that's already got him thinking strangely, doesn't it?
Oh, gosh.
What do you mean, Skip? Just 3 pitches?
They're looking at me like I have 2 heads. Well, I explained it like, okay, the sooner you can get them out, the longer you can stay in the game.
Right.
So basically, I'm trying to get the guys that think they're muscle heads to use their defense. A lot of them think they got to do it all.
Right.
That's where I was going with that. So definitely, I want them to be more of a team guy right then. Make the pitch, get the ground ball out, or get a fly ball, move on, get to the next hitter.
Yeah, you've got 8 guys behind you that are trying to do their job.
Yeah,
let them do their job.
And if one of the things is you're taking your time, you're walking around the mound, and you're going really slow with your pitches, and you're putting your defense to sleep.
Oh yeah.
So a part of that psychology is getting the ball, have an idea of what to do, and making it happen. So that's one thing. Now, the second thing is they're competitors. We know that.
Sure.
They're out there competing.
They wouldn't be wouldn't be there if they weren't.
Well, you're right. That's exactly right. I don't know what they'd be doing, but they would be doing
selling
something else. Possibly, yeah. Or bartending somewhere. Anyway, so you get to a situation where what they need to do is focus, concentrate, make the pitch, and let's get on with it. Now, I had a pitcher at Fort Worth threw a complete game in 89 pitches, and we were out of there in 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it was against the best hitting team in our league that year.
Without a time clock, without speed up rules?
No. All he did was he'd make his pitches. He was getting ahead of every hitter early, first pitch strikes, and he got 8 one-pitch outs. Wow. 8 of them. So this was our game was going along. We won that game like 5-0. They got 1 hit or 2 hits, I believe. But in essence, I turned around and looked at all the other pitchers. And I said, Are y'all watching this?
Pay attention.
Pay attention, because I'd like to see y'all do this too.
Yeah.
So it really helped out that way. Now, let me go back to another part about it. Now, watch the World Series, okay, and this made me think, because with 2 outs and a man on second base, there's no reason to be looking at second base every pitch.
Baseball axiom is you don't make the first or third out at third base. So, with 2 outs and a guy at second base, why would he be trying to steal third when he might get thrown out?
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. They're not going to be stealing third base with 2 outs, because you don't want to make that out at third base, obviously. So you got Verlander.
Yeah.
He was cruising there with a 5-run lead. All of a sudden, he walks a guy. The next guy, I think, got hit. Or he walked the next guy. So he's got first and second.
Right. Now with 2 outs?
Okay, yeah. I'm going ahead of myself. There were 2 outs. And he kept looking at second base. And the next thing I know, I believe he loaded the bases. And they eventually got the out, but nobody scored. or maybe one guy scored. But anyhow, the problem with that is he was focusing more on the guys on base than he was the hitter. And with 2 outs, if you're focusing on the hitter and getting that done, you don't have to worry about those other guys because they're left stranded.
Yeah.
I felt like I called him up.
You were yelling at the TV, focus on the batter.
No, I really wanted to call the dugout and say, okay, tell him to quit doing that.
You got a direct line to Dusty Baker.
So when I managed, I had a no-look pitch and a no-look pick.
Okay.
I wanted
sure.
A lot of those guys said, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, well, you can because you're going to. There's no there's no options here.
Yeah.
If I give you a no-look pitch, I don't want you looking at second base. I want you concentrating on that hitter. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, they got used to that, and they started liking it because what was happening was they were getting those third outs quicker.
Right.
And we weren't getting multiple guys on base and all that stuff. And so it worked out. Basically, the no-look pitch, we had it was a kind of a very obvious sign, but it not just to us. So everybody on the field knew what he was doing. And the no-look pick was the same way. So we started pitching better. We started going further, deeper into the game because they were getting the outs a lot sooner. They were getting deeper. My idea for every pitcher back then was get yourself in shape to pitch 9 innings, and that was for everybody, not just the starters.
Right.
So that was working. I think that year we had 16 complete games, and the only team closer to us was 1.
And this was in the 2000s?
Yes, it was, by the way. Early 2000s.
I didn't know in the new millennium anybody goes 9 innings.
06 or 07. Well, I got to tell you, when Nolan Ryan took over the Texas Rangers, he had the pitchers coming in early to get them in shape to do that very thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at what they did. They got to the playoffs. They got to the World Series twice while he was running that. So, look, he was a worker. And that's a fact.
Absolutely.
And he just wanted his pitchers to work too because that's where everything starts. Those guys have to have that mentality, like you said, a Sharks mentality. But to be able to do that, enhance it, they've got to be in top shape.
It's always been my contention when you see the Ryan Express sitting right behind home plate, that pitcher out there on the mound is doing everything he can to impress that guy that's sitting in that front row back there. They don't want to disappoint Nolan Ryan if he's a part of that team.
If I was a pitcher, I wouldn't. No way. And I wouldn't want him coming down on me. He's a big man.
Yeah. The Rangers were good when he was there. The Astros got good when he got there.
That's true. Now, the facts are facts.
And we all know it's pitching and defense. Pitching and defense.
Yeah. If you could outpitch them, that's like, that University of Texas team, 1982 or 83, where they had Clements and Calvin Schiraldi and those guys.
Right.
Their team batting average was like 200.
Yeah.
But they won the national championship.
Yeah. They were winning 1-0, 2-0.
Exactly. So, pitching is that's the name of the game, brother.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Now, the back end of this deal. So you got relievers, okay? A reliever needs to be concentrating on what's going on the whole game.
Sure.
They can't be down there messing around. They got to be concentrating because their number might get called. So some guys that I had would get up and throw a little bit in the bullpen when they saw something going on without anybody asking them to. They just get up and start throwing because they knew they possibly at that point were going to have to get in the game. Mm-hmm. This happened. Those guys did a good job of following the game because they were ready to go within 8 or 9 pitches to come into the ball game. Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of want to and focus and concentration that really gets it done.
Yeah, it's my turn to contribute. I need to start getting ready to contribute.
Yes,
yeah.
You bet.
And you brought up Verlander. I mean, here's a guy that's been a dominant pitcher in the major leagues for years, especially during the regular season. But he goes into his last start in the World Series, being 0-6 in World Series games, finally picks up his first World Series win, in game 5, I guess it was, in Philadelphia. What kind of mental effect does that have on a pitcher that is that good, but all of a sudden he gets into the big stage and it just seems to blow up on him?
Well, look, he was 0-6, and I think they were making that a big deal.
Yeah.
And he's hearing that and reading it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on his mind. Now that's kind of an indirect pressure that he's putting on himself. There were times I'd tell my pitchers, don't read the paper, don't listen to the news, don't listen to anybody else's opinion,
up for work,
but mine.
Yeah, my opinion's the only one that counts.
You will listen to my opinion. Okay, so I feel like he got himself in more trouble focusing on the guy at second base than any other time. Mm-hmm. I thought that other times, he's trying to outdo the hitter. So, when a guy's amped up, you got to be able to control yourself a little bit. Maybe that got away from him some. This guy's an outstanding pitcher.
Sure.
I mean, he's
going to win the Cy Young Award again.
Definitely. There's everything good about him. There's very little that's bad. Very little. I mean, the only thing bad I felt like by looking at second base so much, he was losing concentration on the hitter. And when you got to get one more out, well, why are you doing that? Yeah. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. So I would encourage any coach from Little League on up to however you want to go to implement a no-look pitch and a no-look pick. That way, they get in the habit of focusing on the hitter, which is their priority anyway.
Sure.
I'd rather see a ground ball out to the shortstop or second baseman with 2 outs than anything, particularly with a man on first and second. It's a flip to second base, and we're out of the inning.
Yeah.
Oh, what? That's fun.
Yeah, that's the fun part of baseball. You're not putting your defense to sleep. And
as far as managing goes, you're trying to hold a tight lead here. It really takes the pressure off the manager too.
That's goal number 1. Take the pressure off the manager, right?
But as far as what I got to do, and I'm a competitor too, I've got to watch myself as well. I can't go blowing off like really bad because they're all watching me too.
Sure.
And they're taking their cue from what I'm doing. And when you're leading that way, you gotta really rethink about, hey, is this, pick your fights, pick your battles. Yeah. There were some I picked very badly, and there were some I did very well at. So, but as you go and you do stuff like that, and you make those mistakes, you learn from them, hopefully, so they don't happen, or you mitigate that, minimize it to a point where, okay, we're hanging in there. So, okay, the psychology of the manager with the pitcher is a big deal too. Mm-hmm. There are some guys that you can go out there and jerk them around a little bit. There are some guys you got to pat on the back and say, hey, you're doing a great job. So you got to be able to know who to do that with. You can't do it with everybody one way. It doesn't work. I would take the soft approach first. Go soft, hard, soft if you have to. It's one of those ways of doing it. And hard meaning not too hard. It means firm. That's all.
Right.
And anyway, that's another psychology part right there.
Well, that was one thing that Jimmy Johnson was so good at when he was coaching football is he understood each individual player's demeanor, psychology, whatever, as to how to approach that player. He may cut somebody that you think there's no reason for him to cut him, but then, like a Michael Irvin, he keeps him around no matter what, and, has a different approach to Michael Irvin than he does to somebody that he cut off the team.
Well, it's I agree with that.
Yeah.
You got to be that with you. Okay, so everybody on your ball team, you got 24 guys. Well, they got to worry about themselves. But as a manager, you got to worry about all 24 of them, and you got to really concern yourself with how they're going to take this. Mm-hmm. So you got to juggle that one, and it's delicate. So that's a good question.
Okay, the psychology of pitching. A starter as opposed to a reliever. There are some guys that seem like the reliever role is all they want to do, and that fits them just fine. There's some that seem to be starting, but there are some that can also do both. So is there some psychology factor that a manager's looking at those pitchers to decide he's a starter, he's a reliever?
Well, let's go back to the World Series, the last game. Okay, when the pitcher went out, I think it was 1-1. Wheeler went out. They put in that lefty could throw.
The fireballer.
Yeah, well, he was all amped up. And this is where you got to internally control yourself. You could tell he was amped up. Every pitch he was throwing was 100+ miles an hour, and they were all over the place. I would rather the guy take a deep breath, focus on what he has to do, make a good pitch and get a ground ball out, or get a swing and a miss. Mm-hmm. When guys get to the big league, or at AAA, AA, AAA guys, they're hitting fastballs.
Absolutely.
That's what they can hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, you get to that level, they not only hit them, but they hit them hard. And
they launch them over the moon.
And these guys can turn around a Learjet. It's really one of those kind of things. So, and he tried to do that with Alvarez, and it was the longest ball I've seen hit all year.
450 over the batter's eye in center field.
It was a 100-mile-an-hour pitch that turned around about 110, 120, and went over a very, very, very tall wall in center field.
Yes.
And that was, what, a 3-run home run?
Yes, that was the game winner.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's that pitcher, Alvarado, I can't remember the lefty. Yeah. He's got a good arm. Great arm. Yeah. He's going to be around a while. But
throw it through a wall.
Yeah, he went out there with that bulldog determination, but you got to be able to throw your other pitches too. Mm-hmm. You got to keep good hitters off of that fastball as much as possible. If you set them up right, they're going to miss the fastball. So there's multiple ways you could do that, so we're not going to go into that. But I felt like he stayed on that fastball way too much.
Yeah. About to run out of time, but one other thing I want to bring up from the World Series. I'll think of his name in a minute.
It's one of those senior moments, Lark.
Yeah, I have those. Anyway, there was an Astros pitcher that was tipping his pitches.
McCullers.
Lance McCullers, supposedly tipping his pitches. How does a guy get to that level and not know, or somebody doesn't see it on his team and correct that?
Okay, well, his team sees him every day, so they're used to what they're seeing. The other team, though, is trying to pick something up, and it was obvious to me that the Phillies did because they worked on him. They hit, 5 home runs off of him?
Yeah.
And he's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looked to me like they were hitting his changeup because they were sitting on it, it looked like. I don't know. I don't know, but evidently he was tipping that off some way. So you got different camera angles, and what the one I saw was mainly from behind, so you really can't tell anything then. Mm-hmm. It was obvious they saw something, and they exploited it. They took advantage of it.
From what I was told in his set, if he set just a little bit under his chin, it was going to be a changeup. If he sat with his glove down near his belt, it was going to be a fastball.
That could have been.
That's what they were picking up.
Well, that's
how does a pitching coach who's on the bench not see that and say, hey, walk out there and say, hey, you're tipping your pitches. Let's try this.
Well, you know this guy really well that we played with, and he's a really good pitcher. And when he'd throw a curveball, he'd stick his tongue out. Like he was licking a lollipop.
Well, I got to admit, if at the plate, I'm not looking at the pitcher's tongue.
But he's tipping it off before he throws the pitch.
Okay.
And one time I told him, I said, do you realize you're licking your chops every time you throw a breaking ball? He goes, no, I didn't. I said, well, cut it out because you got a good breaking ball, but they're teeing off on you.
I was just standing at the plate making sure he didn't hit me.
He did have a few control issues, but anyway.
At times. Well, that's our time for today. Hope you'll join us the next time we have a visit to the Mound. That'll wrap up this visit to the Mound. We certainly appreciate you joining us today for a little baseball talk. Anytime you want to hear something about baseball, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can go to roguemedianetwork.com for the next edition of A Visit to the Mound.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.